Hello, my name is Christina McLennan, and today I will be reviewing the 1976 film Carrie. This was a horror film that was based on the novel by Stephen King. It was the first novel of his to be adapted into a movie. There have been so many ever since. It was directed by Brian De Palma, and the screenplay was written by Lawrence B. Cohen. This was an MGM Studios film. The film stars Sissy Spacek, who plays Carrie, the extremely weird, isolated girl with telekinetic powers. To get ready for this role, Sissy isolated herself from the cast and surrounded herself by religious symbols. She also acted as somebody who were shamed or publicly stoned or something, so that way she could really get into the mindset of Carrie. The film also stars Piper Lowry, who plays Margaret White, who's Carrie's mom, who's extremely religious. Now, she doesn't do that great of a job acting compared to Carrie, but at the very end, her final scene is crazy. The film also stars Nancy Allen and John Travolta as Chris and Bill, who are the really mean popular kids, and they think up the plan to humiliate Carrie at the prom. It also stars Betty Buckley as Miss Collins, who's the gym teacher, who's the only one that stands up for Carrie and the only one that seems to care about her, really. A brief plot summary of the film is that Carrie, who's the extremely weird, isolated girl, gets her period while she's in the locker room showers after gym class, and she starts to freak out. Her classmates all humiliate her because, granted, they're seniors in high school, so it's kind of weird that she's just getting her period for the first time and is freaking out because she's never heard of anything like that. So they throw pads and tampons at her, and she just completely freaks out. Then she gets invited to the prom by a really popular boy and goes back and forth on whether she wants to go because she doesn't think that it's a real invite. And then she eventually decides to go and gets completely humiliated at the prom. But eventually, towards the end, she gets her revenge telekinetically on her peers and then also on her mother. This film does have some pretty disturbing parts throughout it, like when Carrie comes home after getting her period, her mom decides to tell her that the reason she got this is because she sinned, so she's dragging her into a closet so she can pray to make sure that God still cares about her or whatever. But that seems really disturbing because her mom's like dragging her on the ground. She's literally kicking and screaming. There's also really ominous religious figures throughout the film. Like, there's a scene where Carrie's looking into a mirror and it starts to shake and she's breaking it with her mind. But there's a Jesus in the background that's there and he's pretty clear, and it's just really, that's pretty creepy. What I also thought was kind of disturbing is the fact that nobody tries to befriend this girl. Nobody seems to really care about her except the gym teacher. Like, the principal continually calls her Cassie in front of her after the gym teacher keeps trying to be like, her name is Carrie, her name is Carrie, this is Carrie, and then she just keeps calling her, the principal just keeps calling her Cassie. Some little boy rides by her on his bike and he says, "Creepy Cassie," like he's yelling it at her. So it's just weird that like this little boy knows that she's creepy. There's also, the gym teacher's the only one, like I said, that stands up for her. She advocates for her in the principal's office. She's the one that punishes the other students, and she tries to like make sure that that popular girl asks Carrie to the prom because he really wanted to. So I think the indirect message of this film is that you never know what somebody else is going through, so you should just kind of not like be nice to everybody. But Carrie has all this stuff going on with her mom, who's super crazy, and she has telekinetic powers, but all these kids still bully her because they don't know what's going on with her. So I think the message is kind of like, be careful who you mess with, because she seems innocent, she seems harmless, but then in the end at the prom she does get her revenge. This film makes a reference to Psycho in it, in that the school that Carrie goes to is Bates High School, and there's obviously the Bates Motel and Norman Bates, so I thought that was really interesting, especially since the fact that we watched Psycho like 2 weeks ago in class. This film was also remade in 2002 and 2013 and has countless references throughout film and TV history. Like, there's even episodes in Grey's Anatomy where there's people covered in blood and they'll be like, "Man, you look like Carrie at the prom." So it's just funny that even today in film and TV shows that are still being made in 2019 or 2018, they're referencing a movie that was made in 1976. So even though this is considered a horror film, they do add some really quick lines at some points that are really funny. Like, there's a part where Carrie's mom is talking to another student's mom and trying to get her basically to like be super religious too, and the mom says, "My Sue is a good girl," talking about her daughter, and Carrie's mom replies, "These are godless times," and she goes, "I'll drink to that," and then like looks at her drink and was like, "Oh shoot," like So that was just really funny because she's saying that she'll drink to something to a woman who's trying to get her to love God or whatever. But looking at this film with a 21st century mindset, it acts almost like a comedy because the effects are so bad. Like, it almost seems like one of the scary movie films where they're just parodying horror movies. But granted, they did what they could with the technology they had available to them at the time, so that's not really their fault. But looking back at it, it is pretty comical. Also, teachers can't act the way that they do in this film as they do today. Like, they can't talk to students the way that the gym teacher talks to them. Like, she calls them bad words and she hits one of them when she gives them detention. She makes them do like calisthenics, like jumping jacks and squats. You can't do that anymore. Also, one thing that I did like about this film a lot though is that with my 21st century mind and the fact that there's the hotshot bully who's the pretty girl that's really popular. She's the one that decides, she schemes this whole thing, and she's the one that she goes to detention and then she stops going and it's like, I'm just not gonna go to the prom, and nobody follows her, nobody defends her really. So it's just really interesting to see a character that's the pretty skinny girl that isn't followed, isn't worshipped. So I liked seeing that because in films nowadays it almost seems like if it's a high school film, if she's the pretty skinny girl, everybody just does what she says. And there's also a scene in this film where John Travolta's character is drinking a beer and driving, but then there's no consequences for it. So in a 21st century film, I feel as though if there was drinking and driving like that, they would show consequences of it because they're so against teen drinking. So I feel like if there was a scene like that, like the police officer drives by, if the film was remade today and didn't have to follow exactly what the book plot was, then I feel as though he would get in trouble for drinking and driving, at least like a ticket or a harsh talking to or something. The acting done by Carrie's character is insane. It's so good, like especially in the prom scene when she just has blood running down her face. She doesn't say anything, but the way she's looking around and her body language and like her presence is just really horrifying, because I didn't really think this movie was that scary when I was watching it, and even during this part, since the effects were so bad, it was kind of hard to be scared. But in the scenes where it was just her, it was a little like off-putting and scary. And then the acting done by her mom, like I said earlier, wasn't really the best until the end, but there's a part where she's in the house with a knife and she's smiling and she's just that scene is really, really scary because she just looks so freaky. But thank you for watching my vlog. If you do decide to watch Carrie, I hope you enjoy it and at least have a few laughs along the way. But if you don't, just thank you for watching.